We're talking about the international reaction to the U.S. elections with Nick Vardy. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Nick, you're located in London, so you have a very good vantage point on at least the Europe's reaction to what happens in America. And it looks as if everybody seems to be thrilled over there with the election of Senator Obama as president.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the election of Barack Obama as president was greeted with great glee in the European press for a couple of reasons. Number one, a negative one in the sense that it's no longer George Bush. Europe was getting very tired of George Bush's policies. And number two, Obama, who was actually a classmate of mine in law school, has this unique political ability to really be a blank slate for a lot of people. So a lot of people project onto him a lot of things that they want to see. And Europeans certainly see himself as a sophisticated international leader on the global stage. And I think the one thing that it's important for, that American voters probably don't realize, is that a lot of European voters and overseas voters in general are actually quite upset that they don't get to vote in the American elections because they view the election of the American president as actually the election of the global leader. And they find the election of Barack Obama very much fits with their own views.
Now, I've got to jump on something. You said you were a classmate of President-elect Obama.
Yes.
Now, my understanding was when he was at Harvard Law School,
right,
and running the law review, he actually built a lot of coalitions with the conservative students on the law review.
Yes, he did. He did. Well, when we were there between 1988 and 1991, Harvard Law School was a particularly sort of vitriolic political atmosphere. Actually, it was a lot like the United States is today in that sense. And what he was able to do, and that's, I think, his unique ability, and always seemed to be from what I knew of him, was his ability to take a lot of different viewpoints and really kind of coalesce them. So he's got this political quality of he can speak to a very conservative student, he can speak to a very liberal student, have a conversation with people, and those people say very opposite things, and they both leave the room thinking that he agrees with them full-heartedly, and so he's got that sort of he always had that kind of personality and character.
Sounds like a politician.
It sounds like, yeah, he is a natural-born politician, and he's been quite successful in leveraging that up to I guess the biggest job in the world.
Well, let's go back to Europe very quickly. Now, how long will the Europeans love us? How long will this honeymoon last?
Not for long. I hate to be skeptical about that, but having being an American who's lived in Europe since 1991, so basically since we graduated law school with Obama, I think a lot of the anti-Americanism in Europe has a lot to do more with cultural issues. And if you look at sort of studies on anti-Americanism, there's a lot of reasons that Europeans always have a very, very ambiguous relationship with Americans and the American president. You actually saw this very briefly, interestingly, when McCain and Palin were briefly ahead in the polls after the Republican convention. It only took about 2 or 3 days of that when the European press was already saying, well, maybe Obama isn't as strong a candidate as we thought he was. And so
they were saying that over here too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they were saying that over here, but it was interesting to me that I actually follow the European press obviously more than the American one. But it's interesting how quickly that can turn. And I think in the sort of accelerated 24-hour news cycle that we're used to, things certainly from the European side are may turn very quickly. He's also set very high expectations, and I think that's going to be a challenge for him to meet. And I think it's probably going to be unlikely that he's going to unwind sort of well over 250 years of sort of I would say anti-American, but sort of an ambiguous relationship with the United States. But he's off to a good start.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Nick Vardy on the MoneyShow.com video network.